Well, not originally. South Africa, I believe. But we'll go with Bruce Hornsby. Dave Adams joining us of the Virginia Shooting Sports Association. How you doing, Dave?
Great. How about you, Cam?
I'm good. You having a good summer?
Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
Waiting for vacation to come the end of the month.
I understand. You guys have the annual meeting coming up, too, don't you?
Yeah, it will be the September 28th up at NRA headquarters this year.
Nice.
People
Awesome.
can take advantage of the range as well as you take tours of the museum while they're up there. So we're looking forward to a good time.
That'll be a fantastic way to spend a day. Get to do some shooting, go to the National Firearms Museum, go to the banquet. All right, well, listen, as we get closer to September 28th, let's talk about that. But right now, let's talk about the fact that gun crime is dropping in the state of Virginia. Gun sales are rising. And Mayor Bloomberg is not happy about any of this because he would like to blame Virginia for New York City's crime.
That's correct.
Okay, so major gun crime, according to Mark Bose of the Richmond Times Dispatch, has dropped for a fourth consecutive year statewide. Gun sales climbed to a new record in 2012 with 490,119 guns purchased in 444,844 transactions, 16% increase. Major reported crimes committed with all types of firearms in Virginia dropped 5% from 4,618 offenses in 2011 to 4,378 offenses in 2012. First of all, Dave, I mean, let's just talk about those raw numbers here. We had nearly 500,000 gun sales in the state of Virginia last year, just sales. And we had fewer than 4,500 crimes committed with firearms in the entire state of Virginia.
This goes to show that the vast majority of people purchasing firearms are law-abiding citizens.
Absolutely. So there's something that the media, I think, generally does not spend enough time talking about. We are talking about an a very small number of firearms that are used every year in crimes related to the number of guns that are legally owned. But again, total gun sales in Virginia have climbed 101% from 2006 to 2012. Gun-related crime has dropped 28% during that same time period. But we've got the mayor of New York, Dave, saying that Virginia's gun laws are causing crime in New York City. How can this be?
I don't know. You would think that if easy access to firearms would make it easier to commit crime, that since you can have so many firearm sales in Virginia, rather than going to New York to commit crimes, they do it right here in Virginia. But obviously, they're not doing that.
No, absolutely. Now, here's what's interesting. I know you're going to find this shocking, Dave. Josh Horowitz, the leader of a national gun control group, according to the Richmond Times Dispatch, does not find the comparison of gun crime to legal gun sales particularly significant and views any perceived correlation between the two sets of data as essentially meaningless. He says guns sold incident to a background check are less likely to be involved in crimes than guns sold without a background check. So the real question, which I don't think we really know, is what's the level of gun sales without a background check? In other words, he says if people who buy those guns and have a background check and keep those guns and don't sell them, then you would not expect that those guns would affect the crime rate. The important analysis is not the total number of guns sold with a background check, but rather the number of guns sold without a background check. Okay, now, Dave, first of all, we're never going to know how many guns are sold without a background check. Even if you were to require background checks on all transactions, we'd never know how many illegal transactions took place.
That's correct. And in fact, I think John Lott has done several different studies on this over the last year or so, and he has put the lie to that whole 60% of firearms are being sold without a background check that President Obama has used by saying that it's more like between 14 and 20%. So it's basically a small number of firearms that are being sold without through private sales.
Okay. Now, there's a professor, Thomas Baker, at VCU, and he's done some work with the Times Dispatch, and he says to substantiate the argument that the increased gun sales are causing the drop in crime, he says you'd need to eliminate a number of other factors. He says, but what the data does show is that the more guns, less crime argument is certainly possible. Well, Dave, it seems to me that one thing we know beyond doubt now, is that it is possible to see increased gun sales and a decrease in gun-related crime in the same state because we're living it, right?
Right, and I think that something else that was even more interesting that he said was that it's, while you probably can't make the claim without doing some other research that more guns equal less crime, he says he thinks that you can actually say that more guns don't equal more crime.
Absolutely. So it seems to me, Dave, this is a very bad time, at least from Mayor Bloomberg's perspective, to be making the argument that New York's crime is caused by Virginia gun laws. And this is an argument that goes back, to the mid-'80s, early '90s?
Yeah, they started making this whole push back in I remember starting around the early '90s when they started pushing for the one handgun a month law here in Virginia, and they kept tying it because so many firearms supposedly found in New York were originating in Virginia and other southern states. And they continued to do that even after we passed one gun a month in Virginia.
Right.
So that's when they started pushing for the so-called closing the gun show loophole. And now that we have repealed one gun a month, they want to start making the claims again, saying, oh, my God, 90% of our firearms are coming from Virginia. And I think that Dave Copel has done some great research on showing that you can't use the BATF trace data, which is what Bloomberg is using, to show that those guns are linked to crime because very few firearms are traced to start with. Professor Baker's numbers that were in the article yesterday is basically a follow-up to the study that he did for the newspaper that was published back in Thanksgiving. He finally got the new numbers, the 2012 sales numbers, and it went from a 73% increase in sales from over a 6-year period to over 100% increase in sales over that full 7-year period. And yet crime continued to drop from his original study, which showed, I think, a 23% drop in crime down to now 28% drop in crime. So,
absolutely. I mean, and I know that this is so confounding to the gun control advocates. And the thing is, Dave, if these folks were really interested in less crime, then they'd be willing to put aside their anti-gun dogma and actually consider the possibility that gun control isn't the best way to safer streets and safer communities. If that's our common goal, we all want to see safer communities, then let's work at what's effective. And you know what? Gun control sucks at making neighborhoods safer places.
That's right, and all you have to do is look at Chicago.
Exactly. Now, you can love the Second Amendment, you can hate the Second Amendment. I don't really care how you feel towards the Second Amendment. I'm going to defend my right to keep and bear arms. But as far as policy goes, gun control sucks. It's ineffective. It doesn't work. And so let's focus our attention elsewhere because, again, very clearly it's possible to have increased gun sales and a lot of guns in the hands of the law-abiding people and violent crime go down.
And golly, you don't have blood running in the streets. You don't have a Wild West scenario running around. I think Virginia's probably one of the safest places I could live. I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon.
Yep, me neither. Listen, Dave, appreciate you coming on the program this afternoon, and hope we can see each other again soon.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Cam.
You bet. Dave Adams.